All right, good morning, everyone. As you can see, we're doing flooring today. So, stick around. I'm going to show you some tips and some tricks for installing this flooring. We're going to install this entire house here at the Flip Project. We started this last night. We were thinking, let's just kind of put some out to see what it looks like, and we ended up working for about an hour and getting this in, so I didn't record any of that. But we're already started. We're doing all this all the way through that living room down there. First things first, here's what we're using. We've got our knee pads, of course. Um, Most important, our vinyl cutter right here. This is a Project Source. This is like 30 bucks at Lowe's. Um, just a vinyl cutter, simple. Cuts the LVP fast. Rubber mallet to get things into spots. Scissors to cut weird shapes and angles. Pencils. And then we've got these pry bars for the ends when you get to the end against the wall, and it's hard to kind of pull the piece into the other. That's what that's for. And we've got the little rolling knee pads, and then we've got the little tapping block, which you can use to tap the pieces into place. Alright, I did forget to mention a few tools: a utility knife, a broom or a shop vac, and a scraper, and then also a multi-tool or a flush cut saw that you're going to need later on for the doorways. Alright, so first things first, we got to prep the subfloor. So this is important for the installation. You got to make sure your floor is level, there's no nails, there's no anything that would stick out through the vinyl. We checked everything, the floor was level. We removed all the concrete nails that were sticking out from the carpet, and then we moved on to placing down this protective barrier. So this is a moisture barrier. Yeah, so if you're installing over concrete, this is where our Sentinel moisture barrier comes in. So you lay it down to protect the vinyl from any moisture coming up from below the concrete. Yeah, so they sell this by the big roll. We ended up using like 1.5 of the 1,000 square foot rolls. But yeah, it comes in like 10 foot or 12 foot length, width, and then it comes, you cut it to length, and then it has an adhesive strip that joins the pieces together. So we overlap them about 6 inches. The pieces, we slid them underneath about 6 inches and then pulled the little strip out, and we did this in every room, and then we just let it run up the walls, and we can trim it out later before we put the rest of the trim down. And for our layout, we started by putting spacers down. These will give a 1/4 inch gap. We put them along the wall where we were starting, and then the side wall that we were using. And we just did a little 1-inch brad nail to the wall, because there's going to be trim all the way up here, so it's not really important, but it holds them in place. And they go at the very ends on every single row, and then up against the wall. So these go on every end, one, so that you leave that gap. You have to leave a 1/4 inch gap for expansion. So on every row, you have to put one, and then you also have to put some along the wall that you're using to square, like the guys have here. Alright guys, so after we prepped the floor, then we were ready to install the spacers, and then after that we're ready to start laying the plank. So some flooring, you have to let it acclimate, especially like woods. You have to let it acclimate to the temperature of the house, so you usually bring it in, let it sit for a couple of days and get used to the moisture and the temperature of the house. But vinyl plank, the Duralux, you don't really need to do that unless your material has been sitting in like really hot or really cold extreme temperatures.
Ours was in the store, so it was fine. We brought it in and we let it sit overnight, and then the next day we started laying down the planks. So normally the pattern that we follow is we'll put a full piece down, then we'll put a piece that's about 2/3 of the way, and then we'll do a third row that is about 1/3 of the size of the length of a full piece, and then we start again with a new piece. So we kind of follow that pattern, so it's full piece, 2/3, 1/3, and then full piece again. And we don't really measure them. The way that I've always installed is I don't measure it, I just kind of eyeball it, and that gives you never have your lines lining up, and it gives you the natural look. Doesn't look like you measured everything and every line is exactly the same. Alright, and so the layout for this house, we started in this back bedroom because it had the straight wall, and then it was the farthest back bedroom, and then we were going to work our way towards the front and towards the back of the house. So towards the kitchen and then towards the back wall of the house. And so that's why we decided to start in this room. Alright, for this project, so you'll need a few specific tools, guys. Like I mentioned earlier, you need a tapping block and a rubber mallet. These are essential for getting the planks to lock together tightly without damaging the edges. And a pull bar, it'll also help you work in tight spots, especially like near the walls is where you really use the pull bar. Everywhere else, I'm just using the rubber mallet here. I click the piece of flooring in, and then I use the rubber mallet to hit it a couple times to make sure it locks. And then if we need to move it, we'll use the block. Alright, and yeah, you can normally cut this stuff with like a square and a utility knife, but we've found these vinyl cutters that we've used a couple times, and they're like $30, so they're definitely worth picking one up, especially if you're going to do like a whole house. It just makes the vinyl cutting super easy for all the straight cuts, and you're going to do a lot of them. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth the extra $30 to be able to just cut the pieces fast and not have to pull out a square and a utility knife and score it a bunch of times. Alright, yeah, so we click everything in place, and then we use the tapping block and the rubber mallet to secure each piece, and we're keeping all our seams staggered. You can see right here how staggered they are, and just make sure every piece locks in, and we're usually working a couple rows at a time. And it usually works out, the back pieces that you start cutting to start the rows, you can usually end up using them on the front of the row. When you get to this part right here, you can usually use some of those pieces to make your cuts as well. Yeah, so we just measure it, we turn it, we flip it the opposite side of how it's actually gonna go, and then we measure it, and then we bring it over here to the vinyl cutter, and we just cut it super easy. Vinyl cutter, you just push down and cuts a straight line.
One eternity later.
Alright, finally, when we got to the door frames, I completely forgot this step before we started, and so I had to stop here and have the guys go through and cut every door frame. So you either need a flush cut handsaw or like a multi-tool. We're using the DeWalt multi-tool here, and we're just using a scrap piece to measure out the height, and then we're just marking it and cutting underneath every door frame. And so we paused here and we just went through and did every single door frame at once. You definitely want to do this before you put your underlayment down, because it's, you know, you have to clean it up and it's a mess. So I messed up and I did it after, but you guys should probably do it before. Yeah. Then once we got around the door frames, we jumped into the hallways. You know, we finished out this hallway and then we split up into two groups. One group of guys was finishing the master bedroom, and then I worked my way this way down the hallway towards the kitchen. And it's all gonna be connected, so we wanted it to be straight and all in one piece, and that's why we decided to start in that room back there. Alright, yeah, so I mean, once we got out of that first bedroom, the hallway just ran straight into the living area, and from there, the big rooms are usually the easiest to do. You just a lot of repetitive putting down planks, laying them out ahead of time, and then just one person laying them, one person cutting. We had a lot of help on this house because we were trying to get done fast. So we had, you know, two guys installing on either end and then one guy cutting. As you work through the room, guys, don't rush. Just focus on getting each plank locked in tightly. And then for those tight areas like the last row here near the wall, the pull bar is going to be really handy to cut, to, you know, get a snug fit and pull it towards the piece so you can lock the pieces in.
5 hours later.
Alright, so once all your planks are down, you're done laying the vinyl, then you are ready for transition strips if you need any, and trim. All ours butted up to tile, so different transition strips that we were using. But yeah, after that we installed the trim over to cover the gap. Yeah, so we still have that expansion and it's just hidden behind the trim. Alright, so here's some before and afters of the flooring in the house. Yeah, this one was fun. It changed the house completely. It took, I believe we did flooring for 3 days. So shout out to the guys for helping me out on this one. It was about 1,800 square feet. And we were able to do it in 3 days. So yeah, it looks good. This is the Duralux hawks-pointe 4mm luxury vinyl plank. And thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, you want to see the rest of the series, check the description down below. And if you want to keep up with the videos, hit that like and that subscribe. Thanks.